People who grew up in third world countries, what was the biggest shock for you when moving into a developed country? How expensive many things are while certain things are very cheap, but there's always enough. I grew up in Costa Rica. When I moved to the US, everything was way cheaper. Then I realized how expensive everything in my country is. I mean, $13 for a small pizza is not okay. $13 for a small pizza is pretty stock standard here in Australia. $13. That's a bloody outrage, it is. That things would get fixed. I had a vending machine in my dorm building. It broke down and said, well crap, guess no more vending machine. Absolutely flabbergasted when I saw the machine repaired and working. Edit. Changed dorm room to dorm building. In my school, we have vending machines in the cafeteria. My money got stuck inside and I was told I could call Coca-Cola for a refund. They asked me some questions, and they sent a person to fix it, and they're mailing me 2 coupons for free drinks. Safety when walking on the streets during night. When in Brazil, I used to wait for my wife on the bus stop from college. As she usually left college around 2200 hours, it was dangerous. We used to live on a central zone, and her college was also central. In Ireland, if she leaves a party at 3 o'clock, I don't get concerned at all. So great to live without being afraid. It took us about 1 year to relax. This happens a lot in South America. I'm from Chile and is the same. We as women can't walk at night alone. It's dangerous. Total opposite here. I am from a capital city of a Southeast Asia country. I grew up seeing my house door wide open the whole day. We locked the door only when we were about to sleep. Now, I am in a small city of the United States and live in downtown area. My colleagues at work suggested me to take a cab after my movie night at 10 PM for a 10-minute walk. I am from Canada, and there are places where I would advise women not to walk alone at night either. I live in Chicago and there's no way in hell I would walk home alone at night in this neighborhood. When I lived in Seattle, I wouldn't even think twice about it. The quality of the public infrastructure, and how respectful city planning is with pedestrians. Sydney is full of beautiful little gifts in the shape of shortcuts, stairs, parks, pathways. Everywhere. It truly is a joy to just walk through the city. Also, dogs are more polite than people where I come from. Sydney is the first Western settled city I visited last year, and I can't thank my lucky stars enough that I am moving there permanently in a few months. I used to live in Sydney for a few months and I love just walking through this city. It's amazing. And I always felt so safe, even at 2 AM. My first few hours in Sydney and I hit a coffee shop. I realized I'd left my credit card with my passport. Oh, you're at that hotel? That's fine. Pay us when you get a moment. That level of trust was very odd for me, being from Detroit. American chiming in, Sydney is in a class of its own. Compared to any United States city, even New York City, it feels 3 to 4 times as massive in population, but I never once felt crowded, rushed, or unsafe. Compare that to Seoul, felt 4 to 6 times as large. I constantly felt crowded and rushed, but not unsafe. I visited my cousins in the US once. I was surprised that your houses don't have walls around them. There were only those fences at the side and back that pretty much anyone can jump over. Where I live, the only houses who don't have walls surrounding them are those in compounds or subdivisions that have roaming security guards. Paid security guards, not volunteers like the neighborhood watch kind of thing. Edit. To the people asking, I'm from the Philippines, but it's interesting to see that other countries carry this tradition practice. Edit. Not really a wealthy family, but not really a from dangerous neighborhood. It's pretty standard here to have at least a 2-meter tall concrete walls if you have middle income, but those poor ones just settle with barbed wire. I grew up in Brazil and our fairly nice house in a safe neighborhood was surrounded by high walls topped with glass shards. Instead of ringing a doorbell or knocking on the door, people stood out by the gate and clapped until someone leaned out a window to see what they wanted. When we moved back to the US, I was astounded by the wide lawns and the openness. I asked my dad, how do they stop the bad guys? I mean, anyone could just walk right up to our house and look in the windows or try to break in and take our stuff. He said that's not the culture here. That night in bed I worried about it while trying to fall asleep. It still amazes me how people leave their back door unlocked in the United States. I would feel so unsafe. Not getting suspicious when a stranger talks to you on the street. I can't get over it. I get anxious every time. But people in Canada don't seem to mind at all. Where I come from, when a stranger approaches you, you know the freak out. I'm from South England and no strangers would talk to each other. You'd be considered an absolute lunatic. If you did want to talk about something, you'd have to strike a conversation about something we can all relate to, like the crappy weather. But I've heard about how nice it is in Canada, and my friend was shocked when people just randomly started talking to her on public transport, but she welcomed it. Giant grocery stores are full of food and always fully stocked. Coming from Ukraine to USA in the 90s, my entire family's jaws dropped for hours. My dad's from Munich and my mom's from Krakow, when the stories about their childhoods are sometimes so different because of that. Like my mom will tell you how oranges were a delicacy that you only had for special occasions, while my dad will be like, oh, when we were bored we used to throw them at each other for fun. Now my parents grew up in the 50s and 60s in Italy and told me many times that at Christmas the most common presents were peanuts, walnuts or oranges and stuff like that. How little theft there is. I was always told to always mind my bag and make it clear I'm holding it tight. Now I can freely leave it beside me, sometimes not even look. I've had friends leave a purse on a table in a restaurant and I made jokes about how easy it would be to steal it. Just a lot more relaxing in public due to less theft. Another one is how less physical fighting in schools there is. From a young age I was always told if someone hits you, hit them back harder, but when we moved to UK my dad told me before my first day of school, if someone hits you, tell the teacher. Even from a poorer area in New Zealand to Australia, in the schools here, they leave their school bags outside the classroom. It's so strange. When I went to school we had our bag under our seat, between our feet if it wasn't actually being worn. That being said, every time I'm in a crowd I'm thankful for the basically non-existent pickpocketing and stuff. I grew up in South Africa and have been living in England for 20 years. 1. Car stop when you walk up to a pedestrian crossing. 2. Double glazed windows are really good at keeping the warm in and the noise out. 3. I can walk around at night without thinking I'm going to get shot or robbed. 4. There are only a few people on building sites and the buildings get built in a quick and organized manner. 5. When things break someone will come and fix it. I could go on all day. Edit. Wow, this thread has gone wild. Wish I could reply to all comments but there are a lot. These are just the humble observations of a South American guy living in Northeast England. How things actually work. You can rely on your electricity not going out at least twice a day. If you buy something and it breaks, there's warranty with little to no hassle. Internet actually works more than it doesn't. Public transportation actually arrives and shockingly, it does on time. If you hire a service, it'll actually be done and with an expectation of quality. The list goes on. Of course it's not perfect and there's crappy people everywhere, but that's the exception, not the rule. And it's a massive difference. My time in Japan has ruined this for me anywhere else. Their services, from construction to fast food, are above and beyond anything I've experienced anywhere I've traveled. That's not to diminish services elsewhere. People who are disciplined and care about what they do are also very good at it, but in Japan even a part-time worker balancing high school and McDonald's conducts themselves like a host at a high-end restaurant. I visited Germany once with my family. We were about to cross the road when a Porsche came racing through. Living in India, we experience daily traffic mishaps and there is negligible concern regarding pedestrian safety and courtesy. So we were actually shocked when the driver literally halted to a stop and insisted on us crossing the road. There was no traffic light, no zebra crossings, nothing, and we actually were used to letting cars pass by before walking. So this was the biggest shock to us. Coming from Australia to Germany, this weirds me out too. I recently started cycling for the first time in 18 years, so I ride with the skill of a toddler and the grace of a drunk. But never once has any car honked at me, no one has gotten impatient as I wobble my way around them. No one has gotten made about having to slow down because of the stickhead on a bike. Back home I would have been mangled by now, but in Germany people are generally very accommodating. Although I think it helps that I'm in a small city, no one's in that much of a hurry here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like this video so all your dreams can come true.